Ryan Glover. In this video, I wanted to talk about Proverbs chapter 5, verses 3 through 6. In it says, a seductive woman lips will be sweet, her words will be smooth, but in the end she will leave a pain in your gut and wounds in your heart. I've experienced those wounds, and being in the entertainment industry, I've come across a number of seductive women. I wanted to talk about some of the ones I've come across. One, when I first started going to acting school at Lee Strasberg, which wasn't like the first acting school that I went to, but like when I went to Lee Strasberg, the thing that was different when I went to NIFA is that I was actually married. And anyone who's ever been to acting school, like, you're paired, like, with different actors, actresses, you really don't have like, a whole lot of choice who your scene partner will be. And particularly, I was paired with this girl named Valerie Dominguez, who from the beginning was very flirtatious. What I will say is that, like, she was single. I wasn't. I actually, like, was in a relationship, and I feel like, I was married, and like, I ended up like, basically hurting my wife. Like, I didn't like actually like, having a affair or like, commit adultery in that particular situation. But like, I hurt my wife's feelings. And I think like, she was very seductive, like, to the point where she manipulated me, like, with her words and making me think that she actually cared about me. And then like, obviously she didn't. And I think like, I would advise like, people to be very careful, particularly, who are in the entertainment industry, because there's a lot of women who are like that, who will make it seem like, that they actually want something, like, and they don't. They're just seeking the validation and like, looking to cause like, conflict in your own relationship. And another situation I went through, like, I was at one point, like, seeking like, a life coach. Like, I hired Elisa Reyes, who was a former actor. I met her at the SAG building, and she told me like, that she could help me with my acting career. And she did give me some advice, like, to help me with my acting career. But like, she was also like, doing things like, to make it seem like, that she wanted like, to pursue something further than the life coach. And that was like, a scam that she was doing, because she was basically manipulating men out of money, with the life coach by like, obviously using her body or scantily clad photos like via Snapchat, or, seductive words. And I think like, people have to be careful of that when they're in a relationship. There's nothing like, wrong, like, when you're single, but at the same token, even when you're single, that can be dangerous. And like, I've interviewed a number of adult film stars. I will warn people to stay away from like, girls of that ilk who are sex workers. And I think that those are some of the most dangerous people, because they see things as transactional. And even if you have the best intentions at heart, like, they're looking to take advantage of men. And I've paid like, girls like Zarella Skies for promotion. I gave her $1,000 and she basically ran off with my $1,000. I paid like Ari Electra, who was recently on No Jumper, for an interview, and she basically just took the money and ran after she had used me, like, to edit videos. I paid like, this girl named Chloe Carter to be in one of my music videos, and she basically like, didn't appear in the music video, like ran off like, with the money. So I think like, that there's a common theme there, and there's a lesson. I think like, what I've learned, like, from that Bible verse is like, you have to look at like people's past actions. And I think like, that comes into play. Like, obviously like sex workers, they're not to be trusted. Like, that's not a legal activity. It's illegal. So like, why would you trust like someone who engages in illegal activity? Why would you trust like, someone who is going to do something like is morally corrupt, is sleep with a person because like, they have money? And I think like, that a lot of like the girls in the adult film industry aren't good people. I've had like, some good experiences as far as like doing the interviews, where like they have like, not charged me for doing interviews and shown up, but I would leave it at that. Like, I wouldn't like, have friendships or trust these people to be good people because like, you know, they don't have a history of doing that. And even like, you know, there's a lot of like, you know, people who are probably like, you know, good people that can manipulate you well, like, you know, don't have that history of being sex workers or even like, you know, scantily clad. And I think like, you know, just like the most important thing is just to be vigilant, especially when there's money involved. It's the question, like, you know, when girls ask you like, you know, to send money via Cash App, or ask you like, you know, to like, you know, send any type of money or spend any type of money, that should be like a red flag. I think like, you know, that the smartest decision that you can make is looking for someone who is willing to invest in you, and like, you know, not doing it like, you know, with any strings attached where they're going to throw it up in your face later on. I think like, you know, that a lot of like women now are looking to be paid to be in relationships, or like, you know, paid to go on dates. And I think that's absolutely ridiculous. You know, people should spend time with you because they want to spend time with you genuinely. But at the same token, don't put yourself in a position and stuff like, you know, where they're spending time with everyone else as well. So like, I think like, you know, there's a lot of women who will entertain you, but they're also entertaining other men. And I think like you can't avoid that in today's generation, but it's like you have to be very vigilant against it. And I think like, you know, don't trust what a person says. Look at their actions. I think like, you know, there's a lot of women who like, you know, will text men behind your back, even in a committed relationship. And like, you know, I think that you shouldn't tolerate that. If like a woman is texting another man, like, you know, while you're living with her, you should leave. You shouldn't like, you know, wait for a domestic violence situation to happen. Like, you know, that's obviously horrible. If a woman like, you know, does any of these actions, you should just leave. You shouldn't argue with her. You should just move on with your life. And that's like the best advice I think I could give after being married for like more than a decade. Like, you know, if women like, you know, bring up other men or try to make you feel jealous, a person that truly loves you isn't going to make you feel jealous. They're going to make you feel secure. A person who really loves you isn't going to make you doubt their love for you. A person who really loves you isn't going to call the police on you. A person who really loves you isn't going to try to manipulate you. A person who really loves you is going to operate in truth. And I think like, you know, that we need to be looking for people that actually love us and actually care about us. And then like a lot of women on Instagram, you're not going to find that. And I think like, you know, that's okay. Like, you know, that's the nature of the culture. I think like, you know, a lot of women on social media just in general, like, you know, adopted like, you know, some of these negative mindsets that you see in culture from like, you know, the people like Sexy Red or the Ice Spices of the world. Like, you know, any women that have that type of mindset, you want to look for like, you know, a wife that has biblical values and who is like, you know, investing in you, and you want to build trust in that relationship, and don't ever violate that trust for an Instagram model or adult film star, because it's definitely not worth it. And I hope somebody takes like something out of this video. Let me know in the comments if you found this video helpful, any other videos that you would like me to do. I think that everyone like, you know, wants to find true love, but I think like in order to find true love, you have to first love yourself. So make sure you're pursuing your purpose. And if you really love yourself, you're not going to tolerate lesser behavior. And so like, you know, look for somebody who is honest. Look for somebody who is trustworthy. And I'm not saying that the person has to be perfect. Everyone makes mistakes, but there's certain mistakes that I feel like, you know, that are unacceptable. If like, you know, women are messaging other men, if they're like, you know, entertaining other men just in general, like, you know, that should show you like, you know, where their heart is, and it's not with you. So don't try to convince anyone to be with you. Don't try to convince anyone to pick you. Like, you know, pick yourself. I think like, you know, that that will bring like the person that you're supposed to be with, and the person that actually is going to love you. There's just certain things that like a person that loves you truly isn't going to do. And I'm not sure like, you know, if I've ever experienced true love, like, to be honest with you. And like, you know, that's even like after marriage. Like, you know, my wife has betrayed me a number of times. You know, women on social media, women like, you know, on dating apps or whatever. So like at the end of the day, like, I mean, just put yourself first and make sure that you're like, you know, loving yourself. And I think like, you know, that is the most important thing to do. you can't, like, you know, rely on these women and wait for them to love you. You have to love yourself. I think, like, you know, that is the message that I would give, like, you know, to young men who are watching this video. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you like it.